My name is Chen. I am 38 years old, marketing director at a tech startup and single mother. The smell of disinfectant and fear hung in the air of Lincoln Middle School's main hallway as I clutched my daughter's tear-stained homework assignment. The red ink seemed to bleed across the page like fresh wounds. Each harsh comment written in handwriting that made my stomach clench with a recognition I'd tried to bury for 23 years. Lazy work. Try harder next time. See me after class. The words were scrawled in the same aggressive slant that had once covered my own papers back when I was 12 years old and too scared to eat lunch in the cafeteria. Emma sat beside me on the hard plastic chair, her small shoulders hunched forward as she picked at the sleeves of her sweater. My brilliant, creative daughter, who'd never gotten anything below a B+ in her life, was suddenly failing 7th grade English. And according to her teacher, it was because she wasn't applying herself. "Mom," Emma whispered, her voice barely audible above the echo of footsteps in the corridor. "I really did try on that essay. I spent 3 hours on it." I squeezed her hand, feeling the tremor in her fingers. "I know, sweetheart. I know you did." But what I didn't tell her was that I recognized the handwriting on her paper. What I didn't tell her was that the teacher who was systematically destroying her confidence was the same person who'd made my own middle school years a living hell. The classroom door opened with a sharp click, and a voice called out, "Mrs. Chen, Mr. Davidson will see you now." Before I go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you're hooked already, a like and subscribe will keep these stories coming. I stood up, my legs unsteady, and walked toward the voice. 23 years had passed since I'd last heard that name, but my body remembered the fear like it was yesterday. My palms were sweating, my heart was racing, and for a moment I was 12 years old again, walking into the principal's office because Tyler Davidson had convinced everyone I'd cheated on a test. The woman who'd called us was young, probably a teacher's aide, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. She gestured toward the open classroom door. "He's just finishing up with another parent. Should be just a few more minutes." Through the doorway, I could see him. Tyler Davidson, older now, with thinning brown hair and wire-rimmed glasses, but unmistakably the same person who tormented me throughout middle school. He was sitting behind a desk that seemed too small for his broad frame, talking to a woman I didn't recognize. His voice was calm, professional, nothing like the cruel whisper I remembered from the hallways of Jefferson Middle School. "Thank you for coming in, Mrs. Rodriguez," he was saying. "I think with a little extra effort, Miguel can really turn things around." The woman nodded and gathered her purse. As she walked past us toward the exit, I caught a glimpse of her face. She looked defeated, worried, exactly the way I felt. Tyler looked up and saw me standing in the doorway. For just a second, his professional mask slipped, and I saw something flicker across his face. Recognition? Surprise? Or was it something darker? "Sarah," he said, standing up and extending his hand. "It's been a long time." I stared at his outstretched hand, remembering the last time those fingers had touched me. 8th grade, behind the gymnasium, when he'd shoved me so hard I'd fallen and scraped my knee raw on the concrete. When he'd laughed and called me pathetic as I tried not to cry. "Mr. Davidson," I said, not taking his hand, "we need to talk about Emma." He lowered his hand slowly, his smile never wavering. "Of course. Please come in. Both of you." Emma and I walked into the classroom, and I was immediately transported back to my own middle school days. The same fluorescent lights that made everyone look sick, the same smell of chalk dust and teenage anxiety, the same feeling of being trapped. Tyler gestured to 2 chairs in front of his desk. "Please sit down." As we settled into our seats, I noticed Emma shrinking into herself, trying to become invisible. It was exactly what I used to do in situations like this, and seeing my daughter exhibit the same behavior made something hot and angry unfurl in my chest. So, Tyler said, settling back into his chair with the confidence of someone who held all the power in the room, I'm concerned about Emma's performance in my class. Her performance? I kept my voice level, professional. Or your teaching methods? Tyler's eyebrows rose slightly. I'm sorry, Emma has never struggled in English before. She's always been an excellent student. But suddenly in your class, she's failing. Well, Tyler said, opening a folder on his desk, sometimes students hit a wall when the work gets more challenging. Middle school is a big adjustment. He pulled out several of Emma's assignments, all marked with the same harsh red ink I'd seen on her homework. As you can see, Emma's work has been consistently below grade level. Her essays lack focus, her grammar is poor, and she seems to have trouble following basic instructions. I looked at the papers he was showing me. Emma's handwriting was neat and careful, her ideas clearly expressed. But Tyler had marked nearly every sentence with corrections, comments, and criticisms that seemed excessive and unnecessarily harsh. This essay about her summer vacation, Tyler continued, pointing to a paper covered in red ink, was supposed to be 5 paragraphs. Emma only wrote 4. Because you told the class to write about their most meaningful experience, Emma said quietly, speaking for the first time since we'd entered the room. I wrote about visiting my grandmother in the hospital. I didn't think I needed 5 paragraphs to tell that story. Tyler's smile became colder. Emma, the assignment clearly stated 5 paragraphs. Following directions is an important skill, more important than expressing genuine emotion. I asked, Mrs. Chen, I understand you want to support your daughter, but part of growing up is learning to meet expectations, even when they're challenging. The way he said it, with that condescending tone I remembered so well, made my hands clench into fists. This was exactly how he used to talk to me, like I was stupid, like I was less than human. What about this? I asked, pointing to another paper. Emma wrote a creative story about a girl who overcomes bullying. You gave her a D and wrote unrealistic scenario in the margin. Tyler glanced at the paper. Well, yes, the story was rather dramatic, not very believable. Not believable. The words came out sharper than I'd intended. You don't think bullying is a real problem? Of course bullying is real, Mrs. Chen. But Emma's story portrayed the victim as some kind of hero who single-handedly defeats her tormentors. That's not how the real world works. Emma looked up at him with confusion and hurt in her eyes. But she was brave. She stood up for herself. Emma, Tyler said, his voice taking on that familiar edge of cruelty. In the real world, people who can't handle a little teasing usually just make things worse for themselves. The room went silent. Emma's face crumpled, and I felt something inside me snap. Excuse me? I said, my voice deadly quiet. Tyler seemed to realize he'd gone too far. I just meant that resilience is important. No, I interrupted, standing up. You meant exactly what you said. Just like you meant it 23 years ago when you told me the same thing. Tyler's face went pale. Mrs. Chen, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Has there? Because I remember you very clearly, Tyler. I remember every cruel thing you did to me at Jefferson Middle School. And now I'm watching you do the same thing to my daughter. Emma looked between us, confused. Mom, what are you talking about? Your teacher and I went to school together, sweetheart, and he made my life miserable for 3 years. Tyler stood up, his professional mask completely gone now. Sarah, that was a long time ago. We were kids. You were a bully then, and you're a bully now. The only difference is that now you have a position of authority to hide behind. I think this meeting is over, Tyler said, moving toward the door. If you have concerns about my teaching methods, you're welcome to speak with the principal. Oh, I will, I said. But first, I want to know why you're targeting my daughter. I'm not targeting anyone. Emma is struggling because she's not applying herself. Bullshit. The word came out before I could stop it, and Emma's eyes went wide. I never swore in front of her, but I was beyond caring about propriety now. Tyler's face flushed red. Mrs. Chen, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Not until you admit what you're doing. I'm not doing anything except trying to teach your daughter. You're trying to break her spirit, just like you tried to break mine. Tyler stepped closer, and for a moment, I saw the same cruel boy who tormented me in middle school. Maybe if you taught Emma to be tougher, she wouldn't be so sensitive. The words hit me like a physical blow. Emma made a small, hurt sound, and I saw tears starting to form in her eyes. That's when I lost it completely. How dare you? I said, my voice shaking with rage. How dare you blame a 12-year-old girl for your own cruelty? Mrs. Chun, you need to calm down. I need to calm down? You're systematically destroying my daughter's confidence, and I need to calm down. Tyler moved toward his desk, probably to call security, but I stepped in front of him. You know what, Tyler? You're right about one thing. Emma does need to learn how to handle bullies. What's that supposed to mean? I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recorder app. It means she needs to see that bullies can be defeated, that they can be exposed for what they really are. Tyler's eyes narrowed. What are you doing? I'm going to tell everyone exactly who you are, starting with the principal, then the school board, then every parent in this district. You can't prove anything. Can't I? I smiled, and for the first time since entering his classroom, I felt like I had the upper hand. You see, Tyler, you made one crucial mistake, which is, you assumed I was still the scared little girl you used to torment. But I'm not. I'm a grown woman with resources, connections, and a very good memory. Tyler's confidence was starting to crack. Sarah, let's be reasonable. Reasonable. Like you were reasonable when you convinced the entire 7th grade that I had lice. Like you were reasonable when you started that rumor about me stealing from the lost and found. Emma was staring at me with wide eyes, finally understanding the full scope of what was happening. Mom, she whispered, he really did all those things to you? He did, sweetheart, and now he's trying to do the same things to you. Tyler looked between us, realizing that his carefully constructed facade was crumbling. This is ridiculous. You can't hold me responsible for things that happened when we were children. You're right, I said. I can't hold you responsible for what you did then, but I can hold you responsible for what you're doing now. I turned to Emma. Sweetheart, remember what you wrote in your story about the girl who stood up to her bully? Emma nodded, wiping her eyes. Well, sometimes that's exactly what you have to do. Sometimes you have to fight back. Tyler was backing toward his desk now, his face pale and sweaty. Mrs. Chen, I think you're overreacting. Am I? Let's see what the principal thinks. I started toward the door, but Tyler's voice stopped me. Wait. I turned back to him. What? What do you want? The question hung in the air between us. What did I want? Justice? Revenge? Or just for my daughter to be safe? I want you to leave Emma alone. I said, I want you to grade her work fairly, and I want you to remember that actions have consequences. Tyler nodded quickly. Of course. I can do that. Good, because if I hear that you've said one more cruel word to my daughter, or any other student for that matter, I will make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you really are. I took Emma's hand and started toward the door, feeling victorious for the first time in 23 years. But as we reached the threshold, Tyler called out one more time. Sarah. I turned back. You should know, he said, his voice quiet but carrying a strange undertone. Emma isn't the only student I've been challenging this year. The words sent a chill down my spine. What do you mean? Tyler smiled, and it was the same cruel smile I remembered from middle school. I mean, maybe you should ask around, talk to some of the other parents, see if they've noticed any patterns. Emma squeezed my hand tighter, sensing the shift in the room's atmosphere. What patterns? I asked. Oh, you'll figure it out. Tyler said, you always were smarter than you looked. As we walked out of the classroom and down the empty hallway, Emma's voice was small and scared. Mom, what did he mean about patterns? I didn't answer because I was afraid I already knew. And if I was right, Tyler Davidson wasn't just bullying my daughter. He was systematically targeting multiple students, and Emma was just the beginning. The coffee shop near Emma's school buzzed with the quiet desperation of parents who'd rather be anywhere else. I sat in a corner booth, my laptop open, scrolling through the Lincoln Middle School parent Facebook group, while Emma did homework at the table beside me. 3 days had passed since our confrontation with Tyler, and his words about patterns had been eating at me like acid. Mom, you're doing that thing again, Emma said without looking up from her math worksheet. What thing? That thing where you stare at your computer like it personally offended you. I closed the laptop and rubbed my eyes. Sorry, sweetheart, just work stuff. But it wasn't work stuff. For the past 72 hours, I'd been digging through every piece of information I could find about Tyler Davidson's teaching career. What I discovered made my stomach turn. Mrs. Chen. I looked up to see a woman about my age standing beside our table. She had short blonde hair and tired eyes, and she was holding a coffee cup, like it was the only thing keeping her upright. I'm sorry to bother you, she said, but I heard you had a meeting with Mr. Davidson this week about your daughter's grades. Emma looked up from her homework, curious. Yes, I said carefully. And you are. Jennifer Martinez. My son Miguel is in Mr. Davidson's class too. She glanced around the coffee shop, nervously. Could I sit down for a minute? I gestured to the empty chair across from me. Of course. Jennifer sat down and immediately leaned forward, lowering her voice. I don't know how to say this without sounding crazy, but I think Mr. Davidson is targeting certain students. Before I go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you're hooked already, a like and subscribe will keep these stories coming. My heart started beating faster. What do you mean by targeting? Miguel has always been a good student. Not perfect, but solid B's and C's. But this year, in Mr. Davidson's class, he's failing everything. And it's not just the grades. Jennifer pulled out her phone and showed me a series of text messages. Miguel sent me these from school yesterday. I read the messages, my anger building with each word. Mom, Mr. Davidson made me read my essay out loud, and then asked the class to point out everything wrong with it. He said my handwriting looks like a kindergartner's. He told me maybe I should consider vocational school instead of college prep classes. Jesus, I whispered. There's more, Jennifer said. I talked to 3 other parents this week. Same story. Kids who were doing fine until they got to Mr. Davidson's class. Emma had stopped pretending to do homework and was listening intently. What kind of kids? I asked, though I was starting to suspect I already knew the answer. Kids like Miguel. Kids like your Emma. Kids who are different somehow. Different how? Jennifer hesitated. Miguel has ADHD. He's on medication, but he still struggles with focus sometimes. And he's not exactly the most popular kid in school. The pieces were clicking together in my mind. Emma has anxiety. I said quietly, she's been seeing a counselor since her father and I divorced 2 years ago. And I bet she's not part of the popular crowd either. I looked at Emma, who was staring down at her math worksheet with an expression I recognized. Shame. The same shame I'd carried throughout middle school. No, I said, she's not. Jennifer leaned closer. Mrs. Chen, I think Mr. Davidson is deliberately targeting vulnerable kids. Kids who won't fight back. Kids whose parents might not be believed if they complain. But why? Because he can. Because it makes him feel powerful. I thought about Tyler's cruel smile when he'd mentioned patterns. He'd been taunting me, letting me know that Emma wasn't his only victim. Have any of the other parents complained to the administration? I asked. 2 of them tried. The principal basically told them their kids needed to work harder and be more resilient. Of course he did. Jennifer's phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced at it, and her face went pale. What is it? Miguel. He says, Mr. Davidson just announced a surprise quiz on material they haven't covered yet. And when Miguel asked about it, Mr. Davidson told him maybe he should pay better attention in class. I felt that familiar rage building in my chest. Where's Miguel now? Still in class. But Mrs. Chen, I'm scared. Miguel came home crying yesterday. He's never done that before, not even when kids used to tease him about his medication. Emma looked up at me with wide eyes. Mom, is this what happened to you in middle school? I nodded. Something very similar. And now Mr. Davidson is doing it to other kids. It looks that way. Jennifer gathered her purse. I should go. Miguel's class ends in 10 minutes, and I want to be there when he comes out. Jennifer, wait. I pulled out my phone. Give me your number. I think it's time we did something about this. Like what? Like what I should have done 23 years ago. Fight back. After Jennifer left, Emma and I sat in silence for a few minutes. Finally, she spoke. Mom, what are you planning? I'm planning to make sure Tyler Davidson never hurts another kid. How? I opened my laptop again and showed her the screen. I'd been researching Tyler's employment history, and what I'd found was disturbing. Your teacher has worked at 4 different schools in the past 10 years, I said. And at each school, he left after complaints from parents about his treatment of students. So he's done this before. Multiple times. But he's smart about it. He targets kids who are already struggling, kids whose parents might be dismissed as overprotective or difficult. Emma studied the screen. What happened at his last school? I clicked on a news article I'd found buried in the local paper's archives. A student named David Park attempted suicide. His parents blamed the school's failure to address bullying. Emma's face went white. Did Mr. Davidson bully him? David was in Tyler's class. His parents complained multiple times about Tyler's treatment of their son, but the administration did nothing. What happened to David? He survived, thankfully, but his family moved away, and Tyler quietly transferred to Lincoln Middle School. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Mom, what if he does the same thing here? What if he hurts someone really badly? That's not going to happen. How do you know? Because this time, he's dealing with someone who knows exactly who he is. My phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. Hello, Mrs. Chen? This is Dr. Patricia Williams. I'm a child psychologist, and I work with several students at Lincoln Middle School. Okay. I understand you've had some concerns about Mr. Davidson's teaching methods. I felt a chill run down my spine. How did you know that? Word travels fast in a small school district. Mrs. Chen, I was wondering if we could meet. There are some things about Mr. Davidson that I think you should know. What kind of things? Things that might help you understand why certain students are struggling in his class. I looked at Emma, who was watching me with concern. Can you meet tonight? I asked. Actually, I'm in the parking lot outside the coffee shop right now. I saw you through the window. My blood ran cold. You've been watching us? Mrs. Chen, please don't be alarmed. I'm here because I'm concerned about the students. about what Mr. Davidson might be doing to them. I'll be right out. I hung up and looked at Emma. Stay here. Don't move until I come back. Mom, what's going on? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. I walked outside and saw a woman in her 50s sitting in a silver sedan. She rolled down her window as I approached. Dr. Williams? Thank you for coming out. I know this must seem strange. It does. How did you know where to find me? I've been monitoring the situation with Mr. Davidson for several weeks now. When I heard about your meeting with him, I knew I had to reach out. Monitoring? How? Dr. Williams gestured for me to get in the car. Please, what I have to tell you is sensitive. Against my better judgment, I got in the passenger seat. Mrs. Chen, I've been documenting Mr. Davidson's behavior patterns for the past 2 months. I have reason to believe he's not just bullying students. He's psychologically manipulating them. What do you mean? She pulled out a tablet and showed me a series of documents. These are notes from my sessions with students who are in Mr. Davidson's class. Look at the patterns. I scrolled through the notes. Every student described the same behaviors: public humiliation, impossible standards, cruel comments disguised as constructive criticism. This is systematic. I said, exactly. Mr. Davidson isn't just a bad teacher. He's deliberately targeting vulnerable students and using sophisticated psychological techniques to break down their self-esteem. But why? Because he enjoys it. Because it gives him a sense of power and control. I thought about the boy Tyler had been in middle school. Cruel, calculating, always looking for weakness to exploit. Dr. Williams, what can we do about this? That's where it gets complicated. Mr. Davidson is very careful. He never crosses any obvious lines. Everything he does can be explained away as tough teaching or high standards. So he's untouchable? Not necessarily, but it would take a coordinated effort from multiple parents to build a case strong enough to get him removed. How many parents? At least 6 or 7. And they'd all have to be willing to go public with their complaints. I thought about Jennifer Martinez and the other parents she'd mentioned. I might be able to find that many. Mrs. Chen, there's something else you should know. What? Dr. Williams hesitated. I've been in contact with parents from Mr. Davidson's previous schools. The pattern is always the same. He targets vulnerable students, breaks them down psychologically, and then moves on to a new school when the complaints get too loud. How many kids has he hurt? Over the past 10 years? Dozens, maybe more. I felt sick, and no one's ever stopped him. No one's ever had enough evidence. Until now. What do you mean? Dr. Williams smiled for the first time since I'd met her. I mean, you're not the only parent who's been documenting his behavior, and you're not the only one with a personal history with Mr. Davidson. I don't understand. Mrs. Chen, what if I told you that 3 other parents at Lincoln Middle School went to Jefferson Middle School at the same time you did? My heart stopped. What? What if I told you that Mr. Davidson bullied all of you, and now he's targeting your children? The implications hit me like a truck. He's doing this on purpose. He's deliberately going after the kids of people he tormented in middle school. That's what I believe, yes. But how would he even know who we are? Dr. Williams pulled out another document. Social media makes it very easy to track people down, especially if you know where to look. She showed me a printout of Tyler's Facebook page. In his friends list were several names I recognized from Jefferson Middle School. People he bullied. People whose children now attended Lincoln Middle School. He's been planning this, I whispered. For years, I think. I stared at the evidence in front of me, feeling a mixture of rage and terror. Tyler wasn't just a bully who'd never grown up. He was a predator who'd been systematically hunting down his former victims through their children. Dr. Williams, we have to stop him. I agree. But Mrs. Chen, you need to understand something. If we go after Mr. Davidson, he's going to fight back. And he's going to target the people who threaten him. What do you mean? I mean, your daughter Emma is about to become his primary focus. He's going to try to destroy her before we can destroy him. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Sarah, I hope you enjoyed our little chat the other day. Emma is such a sweet girl. It would be a shame if something happened to damage her bright future. I showed the message to Dr. Williams, my hands shaking. He's threatening my daughter. Yes, he is. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I looked through the coffee shop window at Emma, who was still sitting at our table, innocently doing her homework. My beautiful, sensitive daughter, who'd already been through so much with the divorce and her anxiety. Tyler Davidson had spent 23 years perfecting his cruelty, but he'd made one crucial mistake. He'd threatened my child. Dr. Williams, I said, my voice steady despite the rage burning in my chest. How quickly can you get those other parents together? Tonight, if necessary. Good, because Tyler Davidson is about to learn that some people fight back. But as I got out of the car and walked back toward the coffee shop, I couldn't shake the feeling that Tyler was already 3 steps ahead of us, and that Emma was walking into a trap I might not be able to save her. The rain hammered against the windows of Lincoln Middle School's conference room as 7 parents sat around a table that smelled of old coffee and broken dreams. It was 7 p.m. on a Thursday, and we gathered like some kind of underground resistance movement, united by one common enemy, Tyler Davidson. Dr. Williams sat at the head of the table, her tablet open to a presentation that would have made a prosecutor weep with joy. Beside me, Jennifer Martinez clutched a folder thick with her son's deteriorating assignments. Across from us sat Mark and Lisa Thompson, whose daughter had started having panic attacks after Tyler's class. Next to them were David Park's parents. Yes, the same David Park from Tyler's previous school. They'd moved here 6 months ago, not knowing they were walking back into their nightmare. Before we begin, Dr. Williams said, her voice cutting through the sound of rain, I want everyone to understand what we're dealing with. This isn't just about bad teaching. This is about systematic psychological abuse. Emma sat in the corner, doing homework while wearing headphones. I brought her because I couldn't leave her alone, not after Tyler's threatening text. She looked up occasionally, sensing the tension in the room even through her music. Mrs. Chen, Dr. Williams continued, would you like to start by sharing what you discovered about Mr. Davidson's pattern? I stood up, my hands steady despite the storm raging inside me. Tyler Davidson has been targeting the children of people he bullied in middle school. He's been planning this for years. I pulled out the printouts I'd made of Tyler's social media activity. He's been tracking his former victims through Facebook, LinkedIn, school enrollment records. When he applied for the job at Lincoln Middle School, he specifically requested to teach 7th grade because that's where most of our kids would end up. Mark Thompson leaned forward. You're saying he took this job specifically to hurt our children? That's exactly what I'm saying. Before I go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you're hooked already, a like and subscribe will keep these stories coming. Lisa Thompson's voice was shaky. But why? Why would someone hold a grudge for 23 years? I thought about the boy Tyler had been, the casual cruelty that had seemed to come so naturally to him. Because some people never grow up. They just get better at hiding their sickness. Dr. Williams pulled up a new slide on her tablet. I've been in contact with a former colleague of Mr. Davidson's from his previous school. She's agreed to testify about his methods. Testify where? David Park's father asked. The school board won't listen to us. We've tried before. Not the school board, Dr. Williams said. The police. The room went silent except for the rain. The police. Jennifer whispered. What Mr. Davidson is doing constitutes criminal harassment and child endangerment. If we can prove he's deliberately targeting specific children based on their parents' identities, we have grounds for criminal charges. I felt a surge of hope, but it was quickly dampened by reality. What kind of evidence do we need? More than we have right now. We need him to admit what he's doing. We need him to confess. How do we get him to do that? Dr. Williams smiled, and for the first time since this nightmare began, it wasn't a kind expression. We give him what he wants most, which is a chance to gloat, a chance to explain how clever he's been. Mark Thompson looked confused. You want us to congratulate him on psychologically torturing our children? I want one of you to wear a wire and get him to brag about his plan. The room erupted in nervous chatter. Everyone started talking at once, voices overlapping in fear and excitement. That's insane, Lisa Thompson said. It's dangerous, Jennifer added. It's our only shot, I said, cutting through the noise. Everyone turned to look at me. I'll do it, I continued. I'll wear the wire. Sarah, no, Dr. Williams said. You're too emotionally involved. He'll see right through you. Will he? Because I think Tyler's arrogance is his weakness. He's been waiting 23 years to tell me how much smarter he is than me. And if he figures out you're recording him, I thought about Emma, about the fear in her eyes when she talked about Tyler's class, about all the other children who'd been hurt by this man's cruelty. Then at least we'll have tried. Dr. Williams was quiet for a long moment. There's something else you all need to know. Something I haven't told you yet. What? Mr. Davidson isn't working alone. The words hit the room like a physical blow. What do you mean? Mark Thompson asked. I mean, there's someone else at the school who's been helping him. Someone who's been providing him with information about the students and their families. Who? I don't know yet, but someone's been giving him access to confidential student records, psychological evaluations, family information that he shouldn't have. I felt sick. So there's a conspiracy. It looks that way. Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper. How deep does this go? I don't know, but I intend to find out. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and felt my blood freeze. What is it? Dr. Williams asked. I showed her the screen. The message was from Tyler. Sarah, I know you're meeting with other parents tonight. Conference Room B, Lincoln Middle School. You really should be more careful about where you park. Emma's safety depends on it. The room went silent. Everyone was staring at my phone. He's watching us, Lisa Thompson whispered. How does he know where we are? Mark asked. Dr. Williams was already moving toward the window. She peered through the blinds at the parking lot below. I don't see anyone, she said, but that doesn't mean they're not there. We need to leave, Jennifer said, standing up. Now. No, I said firmly. We're not running anymore. Sarah, he just threatened Emma. He's been threatening Emma for weeks. Running away won't stop him. I walked to the window and looked out at the rain-soaked parking lot. My car was there, along with 6 others. No sign of Tyler or anyone else. But that didn't mean we were safe. Dr. Williams, I said, how quickly can you set up the wire? I can have everything ready by tomorrow afternoon. Good, because I'm done playing defense. I turned back to the group. Tyler Davidson has spent his entire adult life hurting children because he thinks he's untouchable, because he thinks no one will ever hold him accountable. Sarah, Mark Thompson said, what you're proposing is incredibly dangerous. You know what's dangerous? Letting him continue. How many more kids is he going to destroy before someone stops him? Emma looked up from her homework, sensing the change in the room's energy. She pulled off her headphones. Mom, is everything okay? I walked over to her and knelt down beside her chair. Emma, I need to ask you something. and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay. Has Mr. Davidson ever asked you questions about me? About our family? Emma's face went pale. How did you know? My heart sank. What kind of questions? He asked about Dad, about why you and Dad got divorced. He asked if you ever talked about your time in middle school. What did you tell him? I said, I didn't know much about your middle school years. But, Mom, he seemed really interested, like he already knew some of the answers. I looked back at Dr. Williams. He's been pumping the kids for information. It's worse than that, Dr. Williams said. If he's asking about your divorce, about your personal life, he's building a psychological profile. He's looking for weaknesses to exploit. What kind of weaknesses? The kind that would make you vulnerable to blackmail or manipulation. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Tyler. Ask Emma about our private conversation after class yesterday. Ask her what I told her about her future at this school. I looked at Emma, who was staring at her homework with tears in her eyes. Emma, what happened yesterday? He kept me after class. He said my grades were so bad that I might have to repeat 7th grade. But your grades aren't bad. You're getting A's and B's in every other class. I know, but he said his class was the most important one, and if I failed it, none of the other grades would matter. What else did he say? Emma's voice was barely audible. He said that some kids just aren't cut out for academic success. He said maybe I should start thinking about other options. I felt rage building in my chest like a physical force. Other options? Like vocational school. Or maybe just focusing on finding a husband someday, instead of worrying about college. The room erupted in angry voices. Jennifer was swearing in Spanish. Mark Thompson was pacing. Lisa was crying. But I was perfectly calm. The kind of calm that comes right before a storm. Dr. Williams, I said, I want that wire set up tonight. Sarah, we should wait. No, we're not waiting. Tyler Davidson just made the biggest mistake of his life. What mistake? He threatened my daughter's future, and now I'm going to destroy his. I stood up and gathered my things. Emma, we're going home. But first, we're making a stop. Where? Tyler Davidson's house. Dr. Williams grabbed my arm. Sarah, you can't confront him at his home. That's exactly what he wants. Is it? Because I think what he wants is to feel safe and in control. I think what he wants is to believe that he's still the same untouchable bully he was in middle school. And you're going to prove him wrong? I'm going to prove that some of us grew up. Some of us learned how to fight back. As we walked toward the exit, Dr. Williams called out behind me, Sarah, if you do this, there's no going back. Once you confront him directly, he's going to escalate. He's going to try to destroy Emma completely. I stopped and turned around. Dr. Williams, Tyler Davidson has been trying to destroy my daughter since the day she walked into his classroom. The only difference is that now I'm going to stop him. How? By giving him exactly what he's always wanted. A chance to tell me how much smarter he is than me. A chance to explain his brilliant plan. And then I'm going to watch his world collapse, just like he tried to make mine collapse 23 years ago. The rain was coming down harder as Emma and I walked to our car. As I started the engine, I noticed a figure standing under a street light across from the school. Tall, wearing a dark coat, watching us. Tyler Davidson. He raised his hand in a mock wave. That same cruel smile I remembered from middle school spreading across his face. I rolled down my window and called out to him across the parking lot. Tyler, we need to talk. He cupped his hand to his ear like he couldn't hear me over the rain. Tomorrow, I shouted. Your classroom. After school. He nodded and gave me a thumbs up like we just made plans for coffee. As I drove away, Emma was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. Mom, are you sure about this? No, sweetheart. I'm not sure about anything anymore. Then why are you doing it? I thought about the question as we drove through the rain-soaked streets. Why was I doing this? For Emma? For the other kids Tyler was hurting? For the scared 12-year-old girl I used to be? Because sometimes, I said finally, the only way to stop a monster is to face it head-on. What if the monster wins? Then at least we'll know we tried. But as we pulled into our driveway, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Our front door was standing wide open, and there were muddy footprints leading from the street to our house. Tyler Davidson had been inside our home. Emma, I said, my voice deadly calm, call 911 right now. Mom, what's wrong? Tyler just made his second mistake of the night. What was his first mistake? I stared at our violated home, at the evidence of Tyler's escalation, and felt something cold and determined settle in my chest. His first mistake was thinking I was still afraid of him. As Emma called the police, I sat in our car and planned Tyler Davidson's destruction. Tomorrow's confrontation wasn't going to be about getting him to confess. It was going to be about making him pay for 23 years of cruelty. And this time, I was going to make sure he never hurt another child again. The rain continued to fall as we waited for the police, washing the streets clean. But some stains, I knew, would never come out. The next afternoon, I sat in Tyler Davidson's classroom, wearing a wire that felt like a heartbeat against my chest. The rain had stopped, but the air still carried that electric tension that comes after a storm. Emma was safely at her grandmother's house, and Dr. Williams was parked outside with a police detective listening to every word through their headphones. Tyler sat behind his desk, that familiar, cruel smile playing at the corners of his mouth. He looked relaxed, confident, like a predator who'd finally cornered his prey. Sarah, he said, leaning back in his chair, I have to admit, I've been looking forward to this conversation for 23 years. Have you? Oh, yes. You see, you were always the one that got away. The one who never quite broke completely. I kept my voice steady, professional. Is that what this is about? Finishing what you started in middle school? Tyler laughed, and the sound made my skin crawl. You really don't understand, do you? This was never about middle school. This was about proving a point. What point? That people like you, weak, pathetic people, will always be victims. No matter how successful you become, no matter how much you think you've changed, you'll always be that scared little girl hiding in the bathroom during lunch. And Emma is just collateral damage, a way to get to you. His smile widened, though I have to say, she's even more fragile than you were. It's almost too easy. I felt the wire recording every word, every confession. So, you admit you've been targeting her specifically? Of course I have. Just like I targeted Miguel Martinez and the Thompson girl and all the others. You see, Sarah, I've spent years perfecting my methods. I know exactly how to break a child's spirit without leaving any obvious evidence. And their parents, the people you bullied in middle school. Tyler stood up and walked to the window, his back to me. That was the beautiful part of the plan. I knew that if I hurt your children, you'd all come running. You'd all try to protect them. And in doing so, you'd expose yourselves as the same weak, helpless people you always were. But we're not helpless, Tyler. We're here. We're fighting back. He turned around, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're just making things worse for your daughter. What do you mean? I mean, after our little chat yesterday, I've decided that Emma needs some extra attention. Special projects, additional assignments, maybe some one-on-one tutoring sessions after school. The threat was clear, and I felt my carefully maintained composure start to crack. You stay away from my daughter. Or what? You'll complain to the principal again. You'll write angry emails to the school board. Tyler laughed. Sarah, you still don't understand. I am untouchable. I have allies in this school, people who believe in my methods. What allies? Wouldn't you like to know? Let's just say that some people in positions of authority appreciate teachers who maintain discipline and high standards. I thought about Dr. Williams's suspicions about someone helping Tyler from inside the school administration. You mean someone's been covering for you? Someone's been recognizing my value as an educator. Someone who understands that sometimes you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet. Tyler walked closer to me, and I could smell his cologne, the same aggressive scent he'd worn in middle school. You know what the best part is, Sarah? Even if you record this conversation, even if you try to use it against me, it won't matter. Because tomorrow, Emma's going to have a very bad day in my class. And the day after that, and the day after that, you're threatening a 12-year-old child. I'm promising to give her the education she deserves. The same education I gave David Park at my last school. My blood went cold. What happened to David Park? David learned that some people just aren't cut out for academic success. He learned that sometimes it's better to just give up. You drove him to attempt suicide. Tyler's smile never wavered. David made his own choices, just like Emma will make hers. That's when I lost it completely. I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. You sick bastard. You've been systematically torturing children for years, and you think it's funny. I think it's necessary. The world is full of weak people, Sarah. I'm just identifying them early. No, you're just a pathetic bully who never grew up. Tyler's mask finally slipped. His face flushed red, and his voice took on the same cruel edge I remembered from middle school. You want to know the truth, Sarah? You want to know why I really do this? Yes, because I can. Because people like you will always be victims, and people like me will always have power over you. Because 23 years later, you're still the same scared little girl who used to cry in the bathroom. You're wrong. Am I? Then why are you here, begging me to leave your daughter alone? Why aren't you strong enough to protect her? Because I wanted you to confess. I wanted you to admit what you've been doing. Tyler laughed. Confess to what? Being a demanding teacher? Having high standards? Confess to systematically targeting and psychologically abusing children? Prove it. I smiled for the first time since entering his classroom. I just did. Tyler's expression changed. What do you mean? I mean, every word you just said was recorded. Every threat, every confession, every admission of guilt. I pulled the wire from under my shirt and held it up. Say hello to the police, Tyler. Tyler's face went white. You can't. I can. And I did. The classroom door burst open, and Detective Rodriguez walked in with Dr. Williams and two uniformed officers. Tyler Davidson, Detective Rodriguez said, "You're under arrest for criminal harassment, child endangerment, and conspiracy to commit psychological abuse." Tyler looked around wildly, like a trapped animal. "This is entrapment. You can't use that recording." "Actually, we can," Detective Rodriguez said as he handcuffed Tyler. "Mrs. Chen was acting as a private citizen, and you confessed voluntarily." As they read Tyler his rights, he looked at me with pure hatred. "This isn't over, Sarah. Even if you destroy me, there will be others. There will always be others." "Maybe," I said, "but they won't be you, and they won't hurt my daughter." As the police led Tyler away, Dr. Williams put her hand on my shoulder. "It's over, Sarah. He can't hurt any more children. What about his ally in the school administration? We'll find them. Tyler will talk eventually. People like him always do when they're facing prison time." I walked to the window and looked out at the school parking lot. Parents were arriving to pick up their children, normal families going about their normal lives. Soon, Emma would be able to be one of those normal kids again. Dr. Williams, I said, what happens now? Now, Tyler Davidson faces criminal charges. The school board will launch a full investigation, and you get to go home to your daughter. And the other kids, the ones he hurt, they'll get the counseling and support they need, and they'll know that someone fought for them. As we walked out of Tyler's classroom for the last time, I thought about the scared 12-year-old girl I used to be, the one who'd hidden in bathrooms and suffered in silence. She would have been proud of the woman I'd become. Outside, Emma was waiting by our car with her grandmother. When she saw me, she ran over and threw her arms around me. Mom, is it over? Is Mr. Davidson really gone? It's over, sweetheart. He can't hurt you anymore. What's going to happen to him? He's going to face the consequences of his actions. Finally, as we drove home, Emma was quiet for a while. Then she asked, Mom, why did you do it? Why did you risk everything to stop him? I thought about the question. Because some fights are worth having. Emma, because sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to stand up to them, no matter how scared you are. Were you scared? Terrified? But I was more afraid of what would happen if I didn't fight back. Will there be other bullies? Probably. But now you know something important. What? You know that bullies can be defeated. You know that people who seem powerful and untouchable can be brought down by the truth. And you know that your mom will always fight for you. Emma smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her in weeks. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. 6 months later, I stood in the same courthouse where Tyler Davidson was being sentenced. The judge had just handed down his punishment. 5 years in prison for child endangerment and psychological abuse, plus a lifetime ban from working in education. His accomplice, the assistant principal who'd been covering for him, received 2 years and lost her teaching license. As Tyler was led away in handcuffs, he looked back at me one last time. But this time, there was no cruel smile, no calculating look. There was just the hollow expression of someone who'd finally been held accountable for their actions. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked me how it felt to finally get justice. It feels like the end of a very long nightmare, I said, and the beginning of healing for a lot of children. Emma stood beside me, confident and smiling. She was thriving in her new school, making friends, getting good grades. The scared, anxious girl Tyler had tried to create was gone, replaced by someone stronger. Mrs. Chen, one reporter asked, what would you say to other parents who might be dealing with similar situations? I'd say don't wait. Don't hope it will get better on its own. Fight for your children, because they're worth fighting for. And to the children who might be suffering in silence. I looked directly into the camera. I'd say that bullies seem powerful, but they're actually cowards. They prey on people they think won't fight back. But when you do fight back, when you tell the truth and refuse to be silenced, they crumble, because the truth is always stronger than lies. And love is always stronger than hate. As we walked away from the courthouse, Emma slipped her hand into mine. Mom. Yes. Thank you for fighting for me. Thank you for being worth fighting for. The sun was shining as we drove toward our future. A future where Tyler Davidson could never hurt another child, where bullies learned that actions have consequences, and where a scared 12-year-old girl finally got the justice she'd been waiting 23 years to receive.